Welcome, Satnam. My name is Colina Casa. This is the Sat Mom podcast, nurturing ourselves back into wholeness and light, nurturing all aspects of ourselves to bring all of ourselves into wholeness and light. This conversation is a very exciting conversation with my beautiful mentor in the feminine and somatic healing arts, JONITA D'Souza. We're talking today about women's 11 moon centers, specifically the clitoris and vagina moon centers, and the feminine gift that's now being revealed for these specific moon centers. So, before we get started, I would love to introduce my beautiful sister, JONITA D'Souza. I have been working with her for many years, learning and dropping in with my feminine essence. I've spent over 2 decades working with Kundalini Yoga, and longer than that, working with Reiki and other various healing and shamanic practices. And in the past, 5 years, I've also been working with JONITA D'Souza, and the healing effect that I have received, the grounding, the nourishment of connecting deeply with my feminine has been a huge game changer in my life. So I want to thank you for holding this space here, holding this in your groups and in your circles, holding such sublime and safe space for all of our feminine parts, the darker ones, the lighter ones, and everything in between. So thank you so much for being here and doing all that you do.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be here. And I'm so deeply, I want to say deeply excited. Can you be deeply excited?
So I feel it in all cells of my being.
Exactly that. So yeah, I'm so excited. I'm deeply excited to co-create this space with you, Colina, because I think that this is a wisdom that is so needed to be out there for women. And we can do so much by integrating this simple tool in our emotional body regulation system. So I'm grateful for you to taking the lead on this from this aspect. And let's do this, sister.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I want to respond to what you just said, and the fact that I also wanted to share a little bit more about women's moon centers before we get started. If you are not very familiar with what moon centers are, they are not moon cycles, they are not your menstruation. This is something, another subtle cycle that each woman has from in the womb all the way until we pass. And it doesn't usually shift in our life. It will set in the womb, and that will be our cycle for life unless some sort of trauma adjusts the cycle. So these are 11 physical, emotional, erogenous zones in our body. And we cycle through them. We switch every 2.5 days into a new one. Every woman's cycle is a little bit different. So we have to map this cycle. So each one of these moon centers, hairline, eyebrows, pinks of the cheeks, that's my moon center today, lips, earlobes, nape of the neck, nipples, navel, inner thighs, clitoris, and vagina. They each have their own gift and their own potential pitfall, which generally springs up in our life when we've got some wounding we haven't healed that wound center is highlighting. So it becomes this beautiful map as to where we need to love ourselves more, where we need to show up for ourselves a little bit better. And also, one thing I've learned too, where I need to take personal responsibility for getting the best out of life instead of the worst. And sometimes it's our traumas and dramas and things that are set in our bodies from a young age. And we've just been unconsciously in a pattern of cultivating the worst and wondering why we keep getting this. Mm-hmm. So it's a really wonderful tool and to sink into and learn about so we can do those little pieces of work and not feel like we're always having to heal and seek healing and all this all of our lives. Of course, this like our lives are all a journey of expansion and healing and reclamation and things like that. But the we get into kind of a pit of healing constantly. And I just want to there's another portion of life, and that's the experiencing and the joy. So when we're too caught in a healing cycle all the time, we forget that we're already whole, and it's really just some mental blocks and some programming that's really getting sometimes trauma as well that gets in the way of experiencing that wholeness.
Exactly.
So it can be more fun to step back and experience our wholeness and play with it, even on our healing journey. Um, yeah. So today we're talking about the clitoris and vagina moon centers. These are super important ones in the feminine area, especially the feminine area, obviously, because men don't have these moon centers. Um, and the thing that really comes to mind first is that they are physically so close in proximity to each other. They're both part of the yoni, the clitoris and the vagina, but they are so different energetically. So I'm going to share first about the clitoris and the positive, negative, neutral, which is more of the gifted energy state, but also the feminine gift of this moon center, which is this new energy that we're just kind of revealing in our current feminine wisdom now. So the ancient science lets us know that in our clitoris moon center, we can be mostly social and outgoing. We're very engaging. We can really enjoy things on the external playfully. However, when we're feeling negative or wounded in this area, we tend to be cliquish or closed minded, shut off from exploring connections with new people and with new things. And we tend to close ourselves off. And sometimes those closures can cause us to crave association with people that aren't the best for us. On the other hand, the feminine gift of this moon center is in our playfulness, our innocence, and our natural connection to pleasure as our pilot wave. um, I don't find any of the other moon centers to be quite as playful as the clitoris moon center.
Mm-hmm.
Both and in an external nature, which is funny too, not funny, but pretty logical since it's the part that's on the external part of our body.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we love to play with little things, but it's less of an internal, like the vagina moon center is obviously much more internal. Let's not go there quite yet. So the clitoris moon center, expression and playfulness. JONITA, I'd love to hear you help us dive deep more further words. You help us dive more deeply into feeling that feminine gift. So, what is your thought? What are your thoughts on the clitoris moon center and our femininity?
Yeah, so I love how you related it to playfulness. And if you really even think about this part of our body, and this part of our body has been this curious portal of exploration. I don't know, when we were little girls, right? Like we and I know many of us have been shamed and also told off um, when we, as little children, little girls, were exploring our bodies, right? So one of the first things we were exploring is this part.
Right.
It's like really touching and seeing like, okay, what's going on? Because this is this very sensitive part. Like no wonder there are like what, over 9,000 neurons, they say, and they keep coming up with more numbers, bigger numbers, and I'm like, really? Oh my God, what do I do? But this is this part of our body that is electric. This is and for us women, we can explore that. There's a deep level of emotional release we get to experience when we connect with this part of our body. And in Taoism, this really beautiful spot in our body is connected to our pineal gland. And if one of you have ever tried just stimulating the clitoris, you may have experienced this electric shock. It just goes in like in your body, and this is very nature of it, the feminine nature of it, the playfulness, the electricness, the unpredictability and the vastness. And what I have noticed is that somehow we have disconnected that aspect of the feminine. So the
Mm.
playfulness doesn't get to come in and play. And also because of a lot of taboo that has been attached to just exploring our own body, especially this part of the body. That's one of the things. And then also what is very common to see is in the field of Tantra, they talk about really get over clitoris orgasms, right? Like as if it's not just the thing, but there is more to explore. So what I have noticed is that it has been defamed. Like this part of our body has also been defamed because you can get a lot of sensations through this part of our bodies really fast, and that is just a quick fix to many. And so we want to move on from there to something else and something more, but then that doesn't depreciate its existence, right? Like, and if you really notice, there's an entire bone structure, and then the clitoris is just only a little tip out. And why I really love this moon center's connection to playfulness is because that's the invitation. Like how can we dare to do that? Right? Because in this today's world, it's an act of daring. Can we dare to really like touch this part of our body, feel the tingles, feel the aliveness, not for our partner or anyone else, or for an experience or for an orgasm, but just hey, feel yourself, right? And this is missing, I think, just without an agenda of just normal pure connection to you, part
Mm.
of you, like my hand, finger, my eyebrows, right? Like I
Right.
can touch all of these, but then when I touch that, I'm like, taboo, religion, Jesus,
Right.
and all of
To
that.
even say the word, you can't even say the word in public. It's so taboo. Um, it really resonated with me also when you brought up the shame of it, and how when we have a lot of shame, it can really interfere with our playfulness in life. And especially in this moon center, it can interfere with our us being able to receive the feminine gift and be in the higher expression of the moon center, because the shame can cause us to be cliquish and closed-minded with ourselves first, and then that's the reflection, that's what we receive back from the world, that's what we're putting out. So it can rub up against us in like sandpaper when we're carrying a lot of shame and we don't realize it. Yeah, shame over even being a woman and having a clitoris, the sensitivity that the clitoris represents in our body, like you said, the electricity. And it
Mm-hmm.
also resonates with me as like being a feminine in a feminine vessel. We tend to be a lot more sensitive than, masculine vessels
Mm-hmm.
in general.
Yeah.
Our
Mm-hmm.
hormones are up and down. We've got many more like
Exactly.
sways
Mm-hmm.
in the expression of our life, even from beginning and as it moves through menstruation and then ending that and child, all the things. And how our sensitivity has also been similarly treated like the clitoris. We can't talk about it. It's not okay. We're supposed to numb it down so that we can take more. And that
Mm-hmm.
limits our self expression and our playfulness.
Yeah, it's really interesting for a women to even explore our relationship with this part of our body. Like, I know many of us are connected to this part of our body, but how? What's the connection really like? Is it like
Mm,
a quick fix, or is it really an interesting inquiry of where is my energy today? What is present?
mm. And this just came in too. Like we can actually speak to this part of our bodies. I like the curiosity that's you associated with this space in our bodies and with this moon center. We can approach life with this playful curiosity, and it can be lighter than a lot of the other moon centers in feeling. And it can
Mm-hmm.
also feel really heavy because we're just carrying a wound in relation to that. I remember probably everybody has some sort of memory of this, some point of shame with this, whether
Mhm.
you were touching yourself or there was a friend that was, and there's just this murky area because,
Mhm.
and also because we're taught about sexuality and without being taught about sensuality. And
Mhm.
the sensuality is where we get to connect with ourself on a deeper level. And sexuality, as taught in our current paradigm, is an expression kind of more gifted to somebody else.
Yeah,
When so if we surpass the sensual aspect of it and the curiosity and the playfulness of it, we can leap right over these beautiful gifts into just the coaching and the programming of the current world. So then it becomes just like this quick fix, this easy get off. So you can like feel better quickly, which is not a bad thing. But then when we forget the curiosity and the playfulness, then it's something that when we forget it here, then there's less of it in our lives. So this 2.5 days of our moon
yeah,
center cycle is an opportunity to really connect with that life lightness, that playfulness, address the shame if it's there, so that we can lean back into the playfulness of it. Mm,
absolutely. Yes.
okay. I'm feeling like we could talk about the vagina for a moment now. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So the vagina, deep, energetic, connective. That's how we can be in there. Sometimes if we're this moon center also offers the exact opposite of that, empty,
Mm.
feeling like nothing, feeling totally disconnected in life.
Mm.
The higher, more neutral aspect is be penetrating into the truth of things, but the feminine aspect is totally in our receptivity, in our
Mhm.
sensuous receptivity with all of life, and also in relaxation. We get a lot of coaching around the vagina and tightness, but the feminine gift of our vagina is relaxation and
Mhm.
receptivity.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like it's the feminine when we anchor into the feminine gift, then it really fuels and empowers the more masculine gift, which is the kind of external action. If we sit with the feminine gift and allow ourselves to receive that, then it really balances all of our expression with it, and it creates that container within to be able to hold and move forth from. The vagina.
Yes. Yeah.
Hmm.
Let you complete.
And I feel like personally, um, in teachings that I've learned in the past, that there is a deeper connection between the clitoris and vagina too. The clitoris is not just this tiny little nub, like it goes much longer. There's a connection with the pituitary. There's also a connection with the
Mhm.
cervix and another deep
Mhm.
spot inside the vagina near the cervix, where are more like there's more than one G spot. And that has to do with the play between the vagina and the clitoris.
Mhm. Yeah.
Mm. I know that your teachings have much more to say about the vagina. What's coming up for you as far as this particular moon center, and maybe even how we can harness the feminine gift of it?
Mm. Receptivity is the perfect word. We spoke about it before we began this conversation, and this is so apt. Also because of the way the vagina is itself. It's a very thin membrane, and it's one of the very most receptive organ of our body, like our skin. It's just like that, and again, in the work that I do in Taoism, there are like so many beautiful connotations given to this part of the body, not because they are superficial, but it is still a place of reverence in many spiritual lineages, in Tantra lineage, in Taoist lineage. and this area literally being called as gates of paradise, precious pearl, golden lotus, jade fountain, right, treasure, and it's associated with the heart of a woman. Right?
Mm.
If you really feel into this is the very point in our body that determines a lot of safety for us. And when we don't feel safe, our hearts get closed.
Mm.
So there is this beautiful connection coming all the way from down there to up here. And you cannot work it the other way around. You cannot open your heart to open your vagina or feel receptive there or feel or soften there. It has the work has to start there, and that's why in the Sanskrit lineage it's called yoni, right? And it is gates of paradise, again a precious sacred portal. This portal means what? It's a portal for higher realms of consciousness, vitality. And I think for us women, this is a very important organ to concentrate on if we are really into vitality, if we are really into hormones. You know, we all are only growing old, right? And this is the part of the body that can really help us regulate our hormones inside our bodies just by coming in deep connection, reverence. There are various practices, and it really helps in our hormonal production. But what I have seen is, when women engage with practices like douching and using sanitary pads that have chemicals in it, generally using soaps that contain different chemicals, and what else, like wearing the kind of underwear again that have microfibers, microplastics, sorry. So all of these things really affect our internal environment through this receptive area.
Mm.
It's that receptive. So for me, this is a very deep journey of feminine empowerment. What I see around is a lot of people talking about femininity and goddess and stuff, but this is where the real work lies. This is where this is what requires a lot of our attention, intention, practice. And this can bring up a lot of triggers, places where we have closed our hearts and places where we are not allowing to receive. And on the other hand, when we connect deeply to this part of our feminine body, we open up to receiving life in a much more connected way. And this can translate to creative expression, money, relationships, in a beautiful, authentic way. So there's so much to speak about
So
just this
much.
part of our body.
Oh, wow. Mm, so a couple of things that your comments were that came up while you were speaking is our sensitivity and um, our current modern state of the world where women are really encouraged to be more open sexually and not care so much about partners and discernment of partners. If we're that receptive to our partner's energy, any energy that's entering us through the yoni, then we hold also that energy much longer than a man does. A man is not receptive in that way so much. So a woman could potentially hold her partner's energy in her own body for 7 years. Um, so discernment and switching our own mentality from what we're being coached about sexuality and what we're being coached about the vagina specifically, like there's so much disgust even. And so this this treasure that we know it to be spiritually can get totally, has been totally morphed into something. And remember the old, like there's old jokes of a woman lifting her skirt and the man like, ah, and running. And, like there's just so much negative connotation of women's genitalia. And it's been like coached into us that it's a negative thing. And we can feel like it's dirty. And we've been coached that it's dirty and that we need these chemicals to make it right. And my voice got really excited over
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah, it's true. I recently read somewhere that labiaplasty is one of the biggest rising operations on women's body these days. And again, it relates to your clitoris, it relates to the vaginal area. And this is sad because we are really disconnected. And I think you can speak to it when we are in that moon center, how it can reversely affect our emotions, right?
mm, yeah, and again, another place that we can hold shame, especially if we haven't been discerning, or especially if we've been taught by super religious models that that part of our body is sinful or not in alignment with our spiritual self. And so being able to drop in here, do a little work here with the stillness, with the yoni, your jade egg practice, in my experience, is beautiful, beautiful thing to be doing when you're in your vagina moon center or anytime, but especially in this particular moon center, because we have a potential to switch from the old programming of dirty, of whatever, there's just such negative programming, and also
Mm-hmm.
trauma associated with these parts of our bodies that are both
Mm-hmm.
judged and overly desired in a way that's not in alignment with our soul. um, how we can use this opportunity to flip that actually and regain the sacredness of our own portal and the sacredness of our own temple. I feel like it starts there when we can connect with our yoni, clitoris and vagina, labia, all of that, and breathe the sacredness into this space for ourselves. Then it gives us the
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to sit more with the whole body as a temple. And this,
Yeah.
because of the depth of feeling available to us in the vagina, it can really be activated in this moon center.
Yeah. And this is the work we are called to do for ourselves, honestly, literally for our emotional well-being and and to feel safe in our bodies. This is so important. Not many of us women feel safe in our bodies. We don't feel, and as a result of that, we don't feel safe in our emotions, and then we don't feel safe in our actions and our decisions, and it just creates this kind of ripple out in our environment.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. So, gosh, these are two moon centers. They're probably not going to be next to each other in your, just so you know, every person's
Mm,
moon center cycle runs differently. So it's not going to be hairline, eyebrows, cheeks. It's not going to go straight down or up or whatever. It's going to be your own
mhm,
particular cycle. So also, um, sometimes the previous moon center can bleed into the feelings of that current moon center. I just had my vagina moon center, and then it goes into the pinks of the cheeks. If I'm doing that connective work and feeling connective with myself, then I'm much more radiant when I move into the next moon center. If I'm disassociated with myself when I'm in the vagina moon center, then I'm really setting myself up to feel the negative in the next one as well. So there's a not really great opportunity to heal, to reclaim those parts of ourselves as sacred, or to sit with the disassociation and be feeling that. And sometimes it's actually just the awareness of feeling what we're feeling that encourages us to finally just take some
mhm,
steps, drop in. And we don't have to know. We don't have to know how to do it. We don't have to come with the feeling of,
mm,
okay, this is sacred already. We have beautiful teachers such as JONITA to help us drop into that. So she's a wonderful teacher as far as she has many, many women's circles and offerings that help us. And she has, I think, a program you can purchase anytime, which is the Jade Egg and other um, yoni related programs that can help us really, if we're feeling constantly zero, zero, empty in this moon center or cliquish and closed off in our Clitoris moon center, it's letting us know that there could either be trauma or just programming that's getting in the way of us claiming our sacred temple and our sacred pleasure. We think pleasure is only about orgasm. Pleasure is our pilot wave. It's what fills our cup and keeps our cup filled. So when we learn how to stay in connection with our alignment and our pilot wave, there's so much more that we're able to access in our sensitivity and our expression and all that. So these moon centers, the 5 days that we're in it, become so much more active and playful and aligned and deep than they used to be, where before we were disassociating, we're closing ourselves off in order to stay safe. But the real safety is in owning and claiming our temple and being able to express ourselves from there, because then it's like whatever the feedback is on that isn't damaging to us. It is somebody else's receptivity of the thing. And we don't, that's not our game to play, how somebody else wants to receive that. And most of the time when people do respond to us negatively, it's because of their own triggers. And we can, when we're owning ours, somebody else's are just like, oh, you sweet little thing needs some nourishment as well. We can care more for other people with their triggers and not try to either push them away or own them. um, so I think with, especially with these two moon centers, I just do want to recommend finding ways to drop into your feminine with these. When we rely only on the positive, negative, and neutral aspects of these, and the neutral may be so delightful, seeing into the truth of things,
Yeah.
being a charming leader, those are neutral, higher aspects of these two moon centers. If we can lean into our sensuous receptivity, our playful innocence, and our pleasure on these moon centers, it's going to naturally fuel those and make our expression really innate to us. And it's going to be really juicy because it's coming from our temple, not our deficit of that. Would you like to say anything else about these? Anything else coming up for you?
What is coming up for me, just in addition to what you said, sister, that we get to explore this part of our feminine body. We get to explore this part of our feminine psyche. And it is a privilege to do this work with so much information that's, Kalina, you are providing. And in today's world, emotions are everything, right? Like so much is going on. And when we rely on some kind of framework, some kind of guidance, some kind of support to take care of our emotional body, especially the feminine through our emotional body, I think it can really set us up for facing, bigger problems in our life and creating more resilience through rootedness.
Mm.
Yeah.
And that feels beautiful because our feminine is flowy, it can be dark, mysterious, and so juicy. But without self containment, she's just everywhere. And she's just seeping back into the ground, So creating this container for ourselves is really magical thing. And it's kind of like the foundation we need in order to feel safe and build up from there rather than outsourcing our safety somewhere else. So I just want to thank you for being here for this conversation, Janita, and everybody listening. Thank you
My
so much.
pleasure.
So we are kicking off on Sat Mom Social. You can go to satmom.com to learn more. We're kicking off a month of Moon Centers magic and mapping starting tomorrow, February 27th, and ongoing. You can join us on there anytime. And then you can find Janita's magic, janitasuza.com. You can also look up Exploring Femininity on your social network, Facebook and Instagram. Anyway, definitely. Probably YouTube as well. So that's a beautiful thing to do. She's got some really amazing resources for your femininity. And I've got amazing moon centers tools. It's really important that we're bringing the wisdom of the feminine back to our modern time in ways that really serve our modern bodies. It's not just it's like these are ancient practices, and they're put forth in a way that really is super modern and super effective and super grounding and healing and all the reclaiming all of ourselves in a modern way. So we can totally use these tools, but it's our current embodiment that gets to filter them and bring our current gifts to the table. So the feminine is the aspect of ourselves that gets to go down into the deeper, darker spots of ourselves and retrieve those gifts. So join us in
Yes.
our own special gifts, sharing those things with you. Sutmom.com for moon centers and exploring femininity with JONITA D'Souza. Thank you so much for being here. And we'll see you again soon.